This is my free 1964 Chevy K10, and today we're going to attempt to get this thing running. In my previous video, we got this engine to turn over after being seized for a while. However, it still has a couple rough spots in there that I'm going to try and work out. We put a pry bar on the flywheel to spin it over, and it's smooth relatively the entire time, except for this one spot where we're going to work back and forth and hopefully smooth it out. All right, so we made it through the dead spot on the other side. It was pretty tricky, but we got through, and then we came to this side to come back through, and it's pretty smooth. Like, I barely felt any tension through it, so I think we're ready to start pulling it. Now that we got the engine a lot more freed up, we have it attached to my buddy's truck here, and we're gonna pull it while it's in gear, and that'll definitely spin it and smooth it out a ton. All right, it's in gear now. I think the hubs are locked. Let's see what happens. Oh, we're moving. Oh, I hear the engine turning. It's working! We drug it around the yard for a little bit, and it worked pretty well and definitely made it smoother. However, when we would get to a rough spot in the engine, the back tires didn't have enough weight on them to spin the engine over, so we brought it back here, and we've just been spinning it by hand. I've sat down here and spun this engine over a dozen times, and it's getting really smooth, and I haven't felt any rough spots in a long time. I think it's time to hook the starter back on and see what happens.
I also definitely need to take this old battery out. This thing is junk.
Old battery's out. We're gonna go grab a new one so we can spin this thing over.
New battery's in. Let's see if this thing will spin over.
The starter is all hooked up.
So as you can see here, we hooked up the starter to this wire here so that when we touch it to the battery, it spins over the motor so that we can control how much we want to spin it a lot easier, just in case we need to stop it. And as you can see, it spun pretty good. Then after spinning it for a while, we hit a rough spot. And as you can see, the engine does not want to turn over.
So as you can see, the starter would spin it over, however it would get stuck every once in a while. So what we did was we drained all the fluid out of this thing because we had this thing full to the brim with diesel, oil, and just a bunch of other liquids. And now that it's down to actual level, it spins a lot faster and smooth and doesn't get stuck anymore. So now it's time to check spark and get fuel. Carburetor's coming out. Just got the choke freed up, and this cover's about to come off. Cover's off. This thing doesn't look too bad. The gasket's a little rough. We're gonna clean it and let it soak in some gas while we work on spark. Look at all the gunk in that corner there. We're gonna keep cleaning this thing, and we'll see what happens. Just got the needle unstuck. Distributor cover's loose and ready to come off. We're gonna sand the points.
We shoved some sandpaper in between the contacts, and hopefully this works well enough to give us some spark. We threw the plugs back in to check for some spark, and we sprayed some starter fluid in there to see what would happen, and it actually started up. But then it caught fire. The reason for this was that it was soaking in diesel fuel, and we had diesel everywhere, which caught fire, so we drained the oil to put fresh stuff in. Next, we finished cleaning our carburetor. This thing's a lot cleaner and everything's working the way it should. Also made a new gasket. We got the carb back together, put it back in, hooked up all the linkages, and set up a jerry can to use before we clean up the gas tank. And after messing with it for a while, to my surprise, it ran great. Then we took it off the blocks, brought it up to the house to give it a nice wash. Time to give this thing a bath. This thing turned out great. Donna, you'll be driving this thing in no time. This thing looks great. Time for one more test drive.
As you can see, this thing runs and drives great. However, there's still a lot of work to be done, so make sure to like and subscribe to stay tuned.